Good afternoon, and thank you very much for being here. My name is José Ribeiro, and I work as a planner in the county's Community Development Department. With me is my coworker, John Reisinger, also a planner, and together we will be presenting the population section. So this is our agenda for this afternoon. Most of today's presentation is based on information that can be found in the technical report and the technical appendix. The technical report is the proposed revised chapter text of the section, while the appendix contains the majority of the raw demographic data in table and graphical forms with some limited text. Staff will then briefly present information regarding community guidance and goals, strategies, and action. As noted in the memorandum, one of the updates to this chapter is the change in name from demographics to population. The word population can be generally defined as all inhabitants of a particular area, which seems to be a better title for this chapter, as its intent is to describe and provide information about the characteristics of the population of our community. Another update is that the chapter, previously known as population needs, have been incorporated into the population chapter, making it more comprehensive. The majority of the data used for the update came from the Census Bureau American Community Survey 5 years estimates between 2014 and 2018. Here are some selective demographic and socioeconomic data for James City County. The county has a growing population, although growth rates have slowed down compared to population growth experienced during the 1980s and 90s and 2000s. The county median age at 46.4 years old and household income at $83,000 are higher than the Metropolitan Statistical Area, the MSA, and the state. James City County also has a growing aging population with the 65 and older age cohort forecasted to represent more than 30% of the county's population by 2040. Race distribution has remained relatively unchanged over the years, although the proportion of the Black African American population has been decreasing. Here we can see growth of the county's population since 1990 and compared with adjacent localities, the MSA, and the state. The county's growth rate between 1980 and 1990 represented a change of approximately 53.6%. Between 2000 and 2010, the growth rate came down to 39.3%, still higher than New York County, Williamsburg, and the state, but lower than the MSA at 46%. The county's lower annual growth rate appears to be following a state trend. The 2019 population estimates for Virginia's counties and cities report, released by the Weldon Cooper Center, shows that although the state added over 500,000 new residents since the last census in 2010, population growth has slowed across Virginia in recent years, reaching its lowest level since the 1920s at approximately 0.7% between 2010 and 2019. Despite the slower rate of growth compared to past decades, the county's population continued to grow at a faster rate than the majority of other localities in the state. As the map shows, James City County was one of the few localities in the state to have grown more than 10% between 2010 and 2019. Age composition is an important element of the population. Historically, James City County has had a higher median age compared to other age-adjacent localities, the MSA and the state. Similar to median age, the proportion of the population 65 years and older in the county continues to be greater than surrounding localities, the Hampton Roads MSA and the state, and has continued to increase over time. James City County has a growing population 65 and older. This table shows the breakdown of the county's age cohorts between 1990 and 2018. Please note how the percent growth of the population under 19 has remained relatively stable over these years. The population between 20 to 64 years old has been decreasing over time, while the population 65 and older, which represented 11.5% of the population in 1990, now represents almost 24% of the total population of the county. The growth of the 65 and older age cohort is forecasted to continue to grow and at a faster pace than that of other age cohorts. The racial composition of the county is similar to that of York County and the city of Williamsburg. However, the Hampton Roads MSA and the state have higher percentages of racial diversity. Between 1990 and 2018, the percentage of the white population has remained relatively unchanged at around 80%, while the percentage of the Black or African American population has decreased from 18.5% in 1990 to 13.2% of the population in 2018. The number of Hispanics of any race has been increasing since 1990. A household includes all persons living in a housing unit. In James City County, the average household size has been decreasing over the past few decades. However, since the last census, it has begun to rise, and that appears to be part of a nationwide trend. This ongoing trend could be the result of more people living in multi-generational households or more people living together to economic reasons. The majority of households in James City County are led by married couples. In terms of education, James City County has a well-educated population with almost half of the population with bachelor's degree or higher. Also, the number of people 25 years and over who have at least graduated from high school has been growing over the last decades in James City County and in the Hampton Roads area as well. The MSA has the highest percentage of people 25 and over with a high school diploma or higher at 95.6%, followed by James City County at 95%. James City County has a relatively wealthy population with a median household income of $83,048, higher than the median household incomes of the MSA and the state. In 2018, almost 20% of the county's households had incomes between $100,000 and $150,000, the highest income tier, and 2.3% of households had incomes between $10,000 and $15,000, the lowest income tier. The poverty rate has been decreasing over the years from 15.7% in 1990 to 7.8% in 2018. Children under the age of 18 have the highest poverty rates in the county.
The Hampton Roads Planning District Commission, HRPDC, and Weldon Cooper Center have prepared population projections for the county for the years 2025, 2035, and 2045. The graphic compares these two projections along with a third population projection model known as linear projection, chosen for its fit with James City County's historical population trend. Accordingly, with the HRPDC's projection, the county's population is projected to grow by approximately 63% by 2045. The Weldon Cooper projection puts the population growth at 58% and staff's linear projection growth at 41%. Because age cohort projection information for 2025, 2035, and 2045 is not currently available, staff is using age cohort data projections from 2020, 2030, and 2040. In 2018, slightly more than half of the county's population belonged to the 20 to 64 years age cohort, followed by the 65 and older and the less than 19 years old age cohorts. As projected by the Weldon Cooper Center, the proportion of the 20 to 64 age cohort will decrease in the years to come and represent 46% by 2040. The percentage of the population less than 19 years old will remain relatively stable over the next decades, representing almost 20% of the county's population by 2040. The population 65 and older is projected to continue to increase and represent 34% of the population by 2040. The percentage of the youth population of James City County, less than 19 years old, has been decreasing over the years. However, it appears to be stabilizing at 20% of the population. The table shows the historic and projected growth of the youth population over the years. While more recent data would help determine current barriers to serving youth needs in the community, past information has indicated that a lack of awareness was the most significant obstacle for youth in obtaining needed services. Other barriers noted were the lack of space for programs and services, lack of adequate transportation, and cost. These barriers also affect the larger considerations of childcare, recreation facilities, and community economic development. Many county departments, as well as organizations in the nonprofit sector, work to serve youth needs. Examples include the Parks and Recreation Department's Teens on Point program and the Police Department's Community Outreach program. The senior population, ages 65 and older, is the fastest growing age cohort in the county. In 1990, there were 8,097 people aged 65 and older, representing 11.5% of the total population. In 2018, this figure increased to 17,930, or 24.2%. By the year 2040, the Weldon Cooper Center projects this figure to rise to 46,581, or 34% of the population. This growth may be attributed to the natural aging of the population and people moving to James City County to retire. Some of the senior needs, as identified by the county's Social Services Department, includes healthcare, housing, nutrition assistance, transportation, and employment. Programs and services offered include supplemental nutrition assistance program, paratransit services, Project Lifesaver, and a new community outreach network, Educate, Care, Thrive program, a partnership between social services, the police department, and the fire department. The technical appendix contains the majority of the raw demographic data in table and graphic forms with some limited text. In addition to typical demographic data, information, the technical appendix also contains at a glance demographic information for James City County, demographic information for the county's 11 census tracts, and information about the 2019 homelessness point-in-time count. After the 2020 census data is released, staff intends to update the technical appendix and post the updated version for the public. The community guidance document summarizes the public input related to the population chapter that has been received to date from the scientific survey and a first round of community engagement. The slide shows some of the input received so far. A second round of community engagement is ongoing, and a third round of community engagement is tentatively planned for December 2020 and January 2021. As the results of the upcoming community meetings become available, staff will update the community guidance document for review by the PCWG. It is intended that a summary of all the community guidance will be included within the chapter text for the final version. For this initial review, staff has not revised the goals, strategies, and actions that were adopted for the Toward 2035 Leading the Way Comprehensive Plan. Staff is currently beginning to examine potential revisions to the GSAs and has tentatively identified some actions to be revised. Members of the Planning Commission Working Group are welcome to provide initial suggestions and comments regarding the revision of the GSAs and to provide suggestions for questions to include in the next round of public input. At that time, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.